Right, third live stream of the day. Well, we've had a lot of trolls today, so I've had a fun day. So, that's what it is. But we've had some good content. We've had a lot of good questions from people, a lot of good, interesting questions. Get rid of them. So yeah, we'll see who pops up on this live stream. Yeah, I'm back as well. Nice to see you again. Dinner's done. Nice fry up bangers and bacon. But interesting. We had a good live stream. And I've got a lot of things to research. It looks like a lot of things to research. Hell of a lot of stuff to research. So we'll have to see what questions we have. So yeah, any questions are welcome. Obviously, it's the third live stream of the day. The first one had technical issues. The second one had a troll, and now we have a third one. So let's see what happens in this third one. We've got some very good questions from all three live streams, and let's have a look at what comes up in this live stream. So yeah, whack your questions in there, and I'll be very interested to see what you've got to ask me. And I'm all ears. So let's see what questions you've got. Let's take some notes as well. So I've got to do a lot of research as well tonight. Very busy boy I've got to be. But no, I'm exceptionally interested in, to hear what you guys have to ask me and what you guys have got to say. As always, the questions are brilliant. The banter is funny, very funny. Very intelligent bunch of people. So let's get this started. Some very interesting stories in sport. What is the stand of the president? Right. Okay. This. Right. Let's answer these questions in order because they're both very interesting. The kneeling in the anthem. Right. Now, I'm not an American. I'm British, and I've done a video on this because a black NHL player raised his arm in the anthem, and the only regular season league that has the anthem 4 games in the UK is ice hockey. But I honestly, something about America that I don't like, and it's how everywhere you got to go, you've got to swear allegiance to the flag and this and that. The only time we normally sing the national anthem is at international events or cup finals. I personally have never had a. I'm not really. I don't even know where I stand really. I'm not an American, so I haven't lived in America. I have American friends, but I've never lived in America. So, but from what I gather, it's over the top a little bit. Colin Kaepernick obviously did it as a protest because there is an issue with gun violence and trust in the police in the US, and that's a debate that is interesting in itself. It then spread to other athletes, and I think it lost the point of meaning. In my eyes, I think it would have been better had they all protested outside Capitol Hill. I think the kneeling in the anthem as a one-off, yeah, Colin Kaepernick did what he did, but then it sort of exploded into what it became. I'm not really drawn on it. I believe in everyone's right to protest. There are ways of protesting. I think the kneeling in the anthem now, that's yesterday's fad. They should have been better off protesting outside Capitol Hill, like most people would. Who did the worst thing as a sports star before generally being sorry and coming back again? Eric Cantona with his karate kick to the Crystal Palace fan. He was exceptionally provoked into doing it. He got a 9-month ban, and of course that famous Seagulls interview. I was a kid at the time. that had a big impact on me as a sports fan and a lot of my friends as sports fans. Um, but if you want to talk about sports stars doing really bad things, um, uh, it, sports stars doing things and then being generally sorry. I think Michael Vick in the NFL never really uh, was ever really sorry. Shane Warne, I could have mentioned Shane Warne, but I think with what's going on with Australian cricket right now, that is a very hot potato with Australian cricket. If you know who's really sorry, we have to think of some really egregious. Michael Vick in the NFL, he did some bad things. Mitchell Pearce in the NRL, he's and is it Todd Carney? He's a drunk and an absolute arse. I don't think he's ever really sorry. There's a few of them, but we have to look at um, it's a difficult one. I think Eric Cantona was actually eventually sorry for how he reacted to the abuse he was receiving from that Crystal Palace fan, and he went on to continue to have a great career. Um, I think Steve Smith is generally sorry for what he's done, but at the same time, uh, at the moment, the Australian cricket thing is a very hot potato. Very, very, very. It's almost untouchable. But the Shane Warne, I think I do remember him. He got banned for a year. Um, but you got to look at. No, I think that is all manufactured from David Warner. Very, very manufactured, and his wife now blaming herself for what's gone on. For me, he was the driving force behind a lot of the bad culture. Now, there was an interview given by an ex-England cricketer, Michael Vaughan, and he says that the sandpaper layman wouldn't have known about that or would have told them to stop doing it. Well, here's the thing: the fact they felt able to do it, and I honestly, the whole Australian setup, there's a lot of things wrong with it. They were more interested in their TV deal and their sponsorship deals than what the players were doing. And every time I've seen a video over this cricket thing, and I've mentioned something to do with how I think Warner isn't sorry, and I've got no sympathy for people who cheat. Apparently, I'm a disgusting bastard. I'm a disgusting human being. And most of this, the Indians, they love cheats. Apparently in India, that's my view on it. From what I've seen on the comments, this has to be a watershed moment for the sport because you have to look at other sports and uh, and cheating and how it would be perceived. I think the media's gone a bit. Oh, well, yeah, Indians on YouTube have had my. I don't. It's the IPL. It's because Warner has played in the IPL. Steve Smith has played in the IPL. But Tom Curran now. Tom Curran is the son of the Zimbabwean player currently died. He went to my old school as well. Yes, I'm a fellow alumni of Wellington College. He's been brought in to replace Warner to replace Mitchell Starc, who's got injured. Sorry, Mitchell Starc has gone down with an injury, and Tom Curran has been selected to go into the IPL. This is very, very interesting. I think and that's been a very popular video in the last day. But what's been interesting for me as a fan of the sport is I know a lot of South Africans, and the reaction to the Australian team when they came out to play in the rest of the third test and the fourth test, they were furious. But we have to see what happens. The sport needs to look at itself in the mirror, and not just Australian cricket. It's across the board because Ben Stokes is allowed to play in this New Zealand series, which England have gone on to lose again because we can't play abroad apparently at the moment. And Alex Hales has been allowed to go into the IPL. They were both involved in that altercation outside that nightclub. Cricket seems to have a habit of rewarding poor behaviour. And the sport itself needs to look itself in the mirror, and the ICC and the various national governing bodies need to really look at what is going wrong, because match fixing is still rife in the sport. Ball tampering, every team does it. Every team does it. Not on the blatant scale of Australia, but every team has, at some point in a game or in a season, will have done it at least once. I think this is now a watershed moment, and the ICC and the national governing bodies need to start coming up with a new set of guidelines, rules, and the ban and discipline, because Australia played to get Rabada suspended. They succeeded in that. They still lost the Test series. They wanted to get the opposition's key fast bowler banned. They did. They still went on and lost. That's the mindset Australia had, was to basically claim they were playing clean, but really they were playing dirty and double standards, and it's come to bite them. But Australia, cricket in general, needs to fix itself. Yeah, no, the 70s and 80s and the Rebel Tour in 1990 that England went on as well, the Rebel Tour. Politics and sport is not a good mix. It really isn't. It's not a good mix. I wouldn't say that was a different type of crisis. That was a political crisis, and sport was trying to, build bridges, and the politicians were breaking those bridges more and more rather than dialogue. In this case, this is greed has caused this, and contempt for the game. That crisis with the rebel tours in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, that was sport trying to build bridges. What Warner, Smith, and Bancroft, and maybe others, and there probably will be others, have done is they have lost sight of what the game means, the sport means, the values of the core values of the sport. They disrespected the fans, they disrespected the opposition, and the ICC's punishment was laughable. So cricket as itself needs to seriously look itself in the mirror and ask itself some serious questions to do with reform, to do with a variety of issues, disciplining players when they do misbehave, looking at match fixing and spot fixing, because they are big issues, and they're not just issues for cricket. It's a wider issue in sport with links to organised crime. There's lots of things they need to fix. Lots of things. The thing is, the ICC and India are not the best of friends at the moment. India, for a long time, didn't have the review system. They didn't have that, and they refused to bring in the review system. They refused to bring it in. They refused to implement it. The ICC in India, yes, India is one of the powerhouses of world cricket, and it's the biggest market for cricket in the world at the moment. So we'll have to see if the North Americans take up the sport. But at the moment, India is, the ultimate place to play one-day T20 cricket. It has the most players. But the ICC in India are at loggerheads and have been for quite some time. At the moment, the ICC is actually running out of friends. The International Cricket Council is really not very popular with a lot of the governing bodies of all the teams. At the moment, the ECB is probably the only one that has any say on ICC, any rule changes, anything like that. Most of the governing bodies of the national sides, and because the West Indies is an amalgamation of national sides as well, because the West Indies is made up of multiple countries, but because they're so small in size, they're represented by the West Indies. They've been disagreeing with the ICC for a very, very long time. Pakistan has had issues with the ICC banning them from playing tests in their home country. They've got to play them in Dubai. Bangladesh, angry with the ICC delaying their entry into Test cricket. New Zealand not getting enough 5 Test series. They're not happy with the ICC. England, the ICC's got issues with every nation, every international team involved has got issues with the ICC. Some have got more than others. India has had a big row with the ICC, big row. So the governing body of the international governing body of the sport is very isolated. There's not enough dialogue in between all the players. But no, India does have enormous power in cricket, yes, especially in the politics behind the scenes, and especially in the money. Hence why the IPL is drawing players from all over the world to play. But hello, Casey. Hello again. But that was a very, very good question. Then, I mean, I have to admit, you do really hit the nail on the head with a lot of what you say and what you ask. But at the same time, I have concerns about multiple sports, not just cricket. There are other sports that I have concerns about in governance and in what's happening behind the scenes. It's not just cricket that has issues. Many sports have issues. But we shall see what plays out with what happens in Australia. I don't know who comes in as your new coach now that Lehman's gone. And I don't know if Tim Payne will stay as captain because that would be exceptionally interesting. What happens with the captaincy and again, Casey, this is going back to other points. It's money. It is to do with money in British ice hockey. There's not a lot of it, and that is an issue. There's not enough money in the sport. So, am I surprised he's leaving? No. There's also high player turnover a lot of the time as well. The fact that Swindon have kept your team have kept your core of players together for as long as you have is a credit to how well run your team is. So it is what it is. But yeah, as I said, the fact you kept your team so close knit core together for as long as you have is exceptionally. That goes down to the ownership and the management of the team. Nottingham, they've been a good team for a very long time, and sometimes a fresh voice is needed, and a couple of fresh faces are needed to keep the energy levels up and to keep the success going. As long as the succession plan is orderly and it works, I can see Nottingham Panthers being at the top of the British game for a long time to come. They've got a lot of good players. They've got Josh Tetlow, one of the Bracknell Bees, on a two-way contract, defenseman, and his game has improved leaps and bounds over the last year. I can see that continuing. No, my internet is still going. It's on full signal apparently. It could be yours. I mean, my internet's on full signal, and it appears to be working. But it is what it is. But again, good questions. But on the cricket aspect, there's a lot of issues in the sport. You're a white spinning ring. That's beautiful. Try going out and reloading the live stream because I'm trying my best here. I mean, I have had one internet cut out already, but as far as I'm aware, the internet is working. So keep me up to date. If any of you have any issues with the connectivity, just let us know, and I might have to move the laptop closer to the router. I might have to change rooms and move locations. But no, I mean, I'm interested to hear what other sports you want to talk about. I mean, cricket at the last week and a half has had a terrible time. Horse racing, or where anyone can. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there. Handicap racing, running races. Not that I'm aware of. There could be amateur, not. I'm not that I'm aware of, but again, that could be something that I could look into. Oh, I'm not aware of any running handicap races. But then again, every local town and every county in the country, every region in the country has these local festivals in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if there are amateur ones, but there's nothing that I know of there. There's handicaps, not that I know. Jordan Kelsall and Joseph Hazelden. Yeah, that is interesting as well. That the Elite League has no affiliates in the National Ice Hockey League in the UK. That's very, very interesting. So there's multiple players on two-way contracts who are on different teams who will play as teammates at the Elite League level. That's exceptionally interesting. That's another issue British ice hockey needs to look at. That is exceptionally intriguing. And handicap running races. I'm going to write that down as research. Because I've never come across a handicap running race, but I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the UK or somewhere else around the world outside Australia that they do it. Starwell gift. Right. Let's have a look at Starwell. I've never heard of this, so it's something that I definitely will have to have a look at. That is very, very interesting. Thank you very much. That's another thing on my research to-do list. But I'll have to research that. Thank you for that. But I mean, Mr. Neptunian, you have a lot of random sports knowledge yourself, and occasionally I do read the articles that you send me on the links. But as far as I'm aware, over here in the UK, I've never heard of a handicap running race, at least in recent times. There would have been, obviously, in the past. Yeah, Casey, that you could do that. You could do that, Casey, with the buying of the jerseys. And that's going to be expensive. That's a lot of hunting at club shops, but that could be doable. The issue with the Elite League is I'm not sure they are growing the game. The game is growing again, which is great. We're not back at the levels of the late 90s of growth. There was a big surge in growth in ice hockey in the UK 20 years ago. And some fans drifted away over the last 20 years. When money troubles hit the league, the Super League, fans did start drifting away. So if the Elite League can continue to expand, because it's got two teams this year that are new in Guildford and Milton Keynes, if it can expand further into the south of England, those fans will return. Then it will be cheaper to buy the jerseys. At the moment, you're going to have to spend a lot of money and do a lot of hunting and go to a lot of ice rinks to buy those jerseys. And I wish you good luck on that. That is a noble quest, but that is going to cost you a lot of money in collecting those jerseys. A lot of money. But it'll be interesting what you can find online. I know there's a lot of NHL stuff on eBay, and there's various sellers, and various websites that do sports memorabilia and stuff like that. Some are very reasonably priced, others are not. But it'll be very interesting to see what you actually end up getting and what you end up finding. See, I mean, it is very interesting what you can find on the internet, and the fact that that was probably when I was 3 years old, that game, and it would have been broadcast live on British TV. Fair play to you for finding it. There is footage from the 90s and the early 2000s of the Super League on YouTube. People are posting a lot of content from that era, and that's when British ice hockey was exceptionally popular, and it was becoming so popular that they moved the Super League Rugby League to summer for TV purposes. So the winter you could have football, rugby union, ice hockey, and then in the summer you could have cricket and rugby league, because it was clashing. There were too many clashes for TV. The thing with the Super League is some of those teams are no longer in existence. That's the problem. Some of those teams that were around in the Super League 20 years ago no longer exist. The Newcastle Vipers is one of the reasons why the Super League failed. It failed because they ran out of money. It then failed also because the sponsorship dried up. Solihull Barons moved to Milton Keynes. They became the Milton Keynes Lightning. The Blackburn Hawks dropped down, and other teams pulled out and joined the British National League. the Elite League is growing and has been growing year on year, and the fact that there's now two more teams joined it, that's a good sign that the league, that's a healthy looking sport. Um, it's all about maintaining the growth and developing the league and the players at the lower level, and that's what is important. I'll have to do some research on the British Super League, the Secunda Super League, but I do believe the Newcastle Vipers no longer exist. The original Hull Stingrays no longer exist. They have been reformed as the Hull Pirates. Manchester have had so many changes. The Manchester Storm that you see now was not the Manchester team that was in the league originally. So a lot of the teams have changed. But I will definitely have to look at the Super League ice hockey. That is something else on my research to-do list, and it is interesting. Basingstoke changed name from the Beavers to the Bison. So British ice hockey has been evolving in the last 20 years, but no, not all the teams were in the Super League, and there were reasons why it failed. But we have to see what the future holds. I wouldn't be surprised if. Whitlink, they're gone. Their ice rink no longer exists. Whitlink Raiders is gone. They were in the Super League. They were champions one year. The Isle of Wight rink is gone. It's been demolished, and the team no longer exists. They haven't existed for a while. They're long gone. There are multiple teams that have become defunct. But it is worth looking into why the Super League failed. Don't know. Whitling Raiders have gone. They're long gone. They haven't been in British ice hockey for a very long time. Their rink's gone. They're gone. They don't exist. As far as I'm aware, they've ceased to exist several years ago. But they were good fun when they used to play in the league. They were good fun watching them play. I think they folded about 3-4 years ago. But they were good fun when they were in the league. They were good value to watch. They were good laugh. They were a good team once, and they did take many a beating as well. By the end of the Whitling Raiders' existence, they were regularly at the bottom of the league, taking 10, 12 goal defeats, and the fans stopped turning up, and the team folded, and the rink is gone. But their rink wasn't a great rink. Their rink had a lot of problems. And this is the issue with British ice hockey: is rink maintenance and making sure that the rinks are well looked after, well maintained, and are, usable long term and sustainable long term. But no, some good questions again. I can't believe I've done 3 live streams today. I must have done about a combined 5 hours of live streams today. By the time this is done, which is good to see a lot of people involved, a lot of regulars, asking a lot of questions. It's good to see, very good to see. But we have spoken a lot about ice hockey over the last couple of live streams and the last couple of days, and it's great. I love the sport, and it's great to hear what you guys have to say on the sport and how you enjoy the sport or how you want to get into the sport. It is great to hear this, but at the same time, there are other sports out there as well that I cover, and it would be wrong of me not to talk about. Yeah, Super League. Obviously, the English Super League now, the European Super League, because of Catalan Dragons, is not on the same standard as NRL. But the Super League wars in Australia was Rupert Murdoch, basically trying to, sell TV rights to make money and dominate, and that's how Melbourne Storm came about, and it's how the NRL came about. The Super League wars of the mid-90s almost destroyed rugby league in Australia, and that was absolute terrible time for rugby league. Both here and in Australia, it was a a time of upheaval. Yeah, I don't buy. This is why I don't. Over here, in Australia, you have Fox. Over here, we have Sky. Sky is the same as Fox. It's owned by Murdoch in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, Sweden have been called by many names. Um, but back to Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, he wanted to have all the sports rights controlled by him, and he wanted a league which he basically owned to make him more money. Um, what was interesting is the NRL was meant to be a national league, and in the end, it's gone back to what was the league before, really, on the East Coast, um, and that was very damaging for rugby league as a sport. Very damaging, exceptionally damaging. Um, and it's only until recently he had lost. He still had some say in how the league was run until very recently. He had shares in the NRL. Um, but that's the past. There's a reason why the NRL is what it is, and it's become a great competition again. But Murdoch nearly destroyed rugby league in Australia. He could have really caused a lot of problems, and he did. And this is why when I do my videos on the NRL, when they should they expand to Perth or relocate outside of Sydney, I try and avoid mentioning Adelaide because of what happened in Adelaide in the Super League era, in the Super League Wars. The team was naff and the fans didn't turn up. Um, and I think the NRL is still feeling the effects from 20 years ago with the Super League Wars. They're still feeling the effects. But I'm very interested in Australia what you think of Rupert Murdoch because he's not very popular over here either. He's not popular at all. I don't read any of his publications. I don't pay for his Sky company. Um, I'm very interested on your perception of it. Um, but it is what it is. It was very damaging for the NRL. But the guy who's now in charge of the NRL, Todd Greenberg, I do not trust him one bit. Um, obviously, Canterbury. Uh, well, there's a reason why he's allowed to exist. It's called World War II and fighting for freedom of speech over Nazi ideology. I I I I don't agree with his media empire anymore. I used to read a few of his newspapers and buy a few of his publications, but I don't agree with Murdoch either. Um, but his impact on sport is worrying because Sky Sports in the UK, Fox in Australia, Fox in the US. Um, if his companies were to collapse, um, then we have a problem because pay per view sports is what is keeping some of these leagues afloat. You take the pay per view sports out of it, the amount of wages paid to players will cripple the clubs. And Murdoch's media empire also helped kill off the British Ice Hockey Super League because it refused to renew the rights in 2003. It killed it. It almost destroyed a great sport in this country. So I don't like Murdoch at all. He is a divisive figure. Yes, but in the short term at the moment with sport is the pay per view TV market. Look what happened to Scottish football. So there was a gap in the market after the ITV over here in the UK. There was a company called ITV Sport, and it collapsed. And Sky had the total domination of pay per view sports in the UK. So for the UK market, a company called Setanta was an Irish company. Came in and built up all the matches and all the crap that Sky didn't want to have. It went bust. The Scottish Football League went down the toilet with it, pretty much. Clubs were hit heavily financially. Yes, sports streaming is the way forward, but in the short term, if Murdoch and other pay per view sports providers were to go bust or to not be interested in doing it anymore, In the short to medium term, many sports would be crippled because of Murdoch, the wages have gone up uncontrollably, our ticket prices have gone up uncontrollably, and if he was to pull the plug on Sky Sports here in the UK or the NRL with Fox, it would not be a pretty sight. Some teams would go bust. But no, sports streaming is definitely the way forward, and that's what I think Murdoch wants to try and delay as long as possible. Hence why very few sports do stream on YouTube and do stream online, and hence why you've got to find VPNs and illegally download and illegally stream. Murdoch and other pay-per-view sports broadcasters are deliberately not investing in free to air streaming, and they are deliberately delaying the transition, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. It's going to cause a hell of a lot of problems in the next 10, 20 years. It's the fact that he has so much control over a sport as well. See, the NRL, I love the NRL, but over here in the UK, I have to pay through the nose for it. I have to pay stupid amount of money for it. It's not free to earn. I have to pay stupid amounts of money for it. This is the issue, because he's got so much sway in the media. It will be highly damaging. I do believe the sports will survive, but in what way will they survive is the thing. But I like motorsport. I like the V8 supercars, and I like NRL. I wouldn't mind that, but I would also want a bit of variation, because I also like the AFL. I like the Aussie rules. I like rugby union. I like the Super Rugby. I like ice hockey. I would like to see other sports rather than just wall to wall, but it is what it is. But how did you find the coverage? What was your view on their presenting and their coverage? Because I'd be very interested to hear your feedback on it. I know it was wall to wall, but how did you find the NRL coverage? Did you find that it was good, bad, indifferent? That's the interesting thing. I think over here his sports company over here, Sky Sports, is crap. I do find it a bit painful sometimes when I do get to watch a game of NRL. If I do manage to find a stream, or I do manage to find a match replay, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of his. Over here we have obviously Sky Sports, which is the same. Sky, Fox, it's the same thing, it's a different name. It's the same across Europe. It's Sky or Fox. It's exactly the same. I don't like the fact you have to pay exorbitant amounts of money. I do not like that. I don't like the fact that his money is, if he withdraws it from leagues, then there's problems. There's going to be a massive vacuum for the sports rights, and that could kill. Then the Nine Network has it free to air. I do like their commentary on the Nine Network. I love the free to air NRL stuff that I get my hands on. I love the commentary. It's brilliant. It's proper commentary. I like it. I prefer their coverage on the Nine Network over Fox, but that's part of the deal that the NRL was set up, was to share the coverage, and it was sort of a truce. It's brilliant commentary. It's brilliant. It's old school commentary. I really like it. But there are Fox AFL channels. There are Fox AFL channels. But because you're in Sydney, it's the secondary sport in Sydney. It's NRL Sydney, then it's AFL in Sydney. That's probably why you were stuck watching something you didn't want to watch. But I have a big concern with someone having so much control over how a sport financially is successful. If the Murdoch empire is to completely collapse in the short term, sport would have a massive impact on sports, because of the amount of wages these players on, and the amount of money. Many sports would struggle if the plug was pulled, because the other pay-per-view and other broadcasters get a smaller share of the pie. The Murdoch empire for sports controls so much of the sports media. It is worrying. But let's move on from Murdoch before I go on a Murdoch and Team Murdoch rant. I've had some great. I mean, you've given me some great video ideas. You've asked some brilliant questions. I really enjoy your input. Your input is top dollar. But it is what it is. Everyone has a least favorite commentator in a sport. Everyone does. I I like watching AFL, and I try and catch it when I can. But again, it's not very well shown over here. Um, you have to pay through the nose to get it, and the AFL are missing a trick. The AFL are missing a trick. Um, I think a lot of sports are missing a trick, and the pay-per-view sports market is an outdated model. It's 20 years out of date, and as you say, streaming is the way forward. But how long until it happens? God knows. It could take months, years, decades till it happens. We have to see at the next round of TV rights in Australia, where Murdoch is obviously from, and the next round of TV rights in the US for the various major league sports, and then the next round of TV rights here in Europe. It'd be very interesting to see how many streamers pick up the rights to free-to-air streaming. I'm not paying to watch the stream. I want to watch it free-to-air. People my age are not paying for the pay-per-view sport packages anymore. They're really not. They're really turning off it, and they've got to start listening to us. But yeah. Hello again. Right, I'm going to stay on for a little bit longer, another 20 minutes, and maybe half hour, and then I'm going to call it a night because I've done a lot of live streams today. And I've got a lot of video ideas. Thank you guys. Your video ideas are there. I'm definitely going to look at the history of the South Melbourne FC. That is something that I really will have to look at. And I'm going to have to look at the handicap running race as well. Those are some brilliant ideas and some brilliant topics that otherwise I wouldn't have covered. There are some other things on here as well. That's a lot of notes. I don't want to bore you guys, and let's just put that down, otherwise I'll keep playing with it. But no, it is exceptionally interesting what you guys have said tonight, and the questions you put forward. Salvador's fascinating. It is interesting. I like, finding out about new sports or new sports teams and a Super League and Bison. Yeah, I'm not saying I'll do all the video ideas. The one that's easiest to research is probably the one that I will do, and that will probably be South Melbourne FC first. I may do a history on the Bracknell Bees, and I may do a history on Basingstoke Bison. I'll have a look at this handicap running race. But there's also got to be an interest. Manchester Phoenix. It was they didn't have a permanent ice rink. They didn't have a permanent place to play, and that was an issue that we shall see what happens. But Manchester Phoenix, they ran out of money, and they didn't have a permanent place to play. So it's very much like Basingstoke now. That could be an idea, but then they would have to pay rental on the when they're at the rink, and they would have to not clash with the Storm's Elite League fixtures as well. That's the issue when you have to when two teams have to share a sports facility is making sure that their fixtures don't clash with each other, and that there's enough time for them to be able to train with the facilities and play at the facilities. And I don't think the Phoenix would get enough fans. They'll all be Storm fans. Yes, Cardiff Fire and the Cardiff Devils have done it, and the MK Lightning and the Storm. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Who the what? Khabib Nurmagomedov. I have no idea who that is, Owen. I cannot pronounce that name. Khabib. I have no idea what that name is. I don't know who he is. Epic name though. No, but it is interesting. British ice hockey is a very interesting topic, but I don't think everyone really wants to hear about British ice hockey all the time. Um, but the league has to keep. Technically, the Cardiff. Oh, Uber. That's a good one. It's like a Bond villain. Um, with the Cardiff teams though, the Cardiff Fire and the Cardiff Devils, there is a link there. Um, it is interesting. We'll have to see what happens next season with that, and whether it's sustainable for the Cardiff teams to keep doing it. Obviously, the Cardiff Devils have won the regular season, so we have to see if the Cardiff Devils can sustain that kind of usage of the rink. Um, but every time two teams have to share a facility, it is an interesting one. It does happen in multiple sports: rugby, football, ice hockey, rugby league. It happens in multiple. You know this name, so he's probably he's probably either a boxer or some kind of fighter. I'm gonna have to check him up. Let's write this down so I can look at this later. Habib. No, it's no, no, Magomedov. Right, that's someone to research. I thought it was UFC or boxing. Um, UFC needs another superstar to come along. Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey have really sold UFC and that brand of MMA. You've got Bellator MMA as well. Um, Mixed martial arts MMA needs another superstar to come forward and fill that void that Conor McGregor has left behind in the men's side of it. And we shall have to see what this guy actually does in the UFC. If he becomes like another Conor McGregor, then another superstar, it raises the profile of the sport even further. Um, so we'll have to wait and see on him. But I'll definitely have to research Khabib. I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. But we'll have to see how he does over the next few years. Randy Couture, Randy Couture, he is someone with a fair bit of flair. See, this is the interesting thing. He's fighting for Conor McGregor's title. Conor McGregor, obviously, not the only superstar in UFC, but he's a household name now. And this Khabib Nurmagomedov, I can't remember. Let's have Khabib Nurmagomedov. Him, if he wins that title, and if he has got this funky hair and he has got something about him, and he's got a bit of a personality, if he can be the next superstar in that sport, that grows the sport to a wider audience. Hopefully, that's what he can do. That's what I hope for. Well, we shall see. We shall see whether or not he can help extend the profile of UFC or MMA in general. But no, I also remember Randy Couture as well. But no, there's some interesting points coming out. That's the first UFC based question that we've had tonight, and the first topic on UFC. So that is something that, again, I've got a fair bit of research to do over the next couple of days. Casey, that is something that definitely I'll have to look into. I'm not the biggest fan of UFC. I'm not going to lie. I haven't been following it as much as I used to. It had a surge in popularity when Conor McGregor was coming along, and he then made it a little bit more popular. But hopefully, this Eastern European lad with the wacky hair can increase its popularity yet further. That's what's important. Sport has an issue right now where there's not enough of these people who are increasing the image of their sport. There's some sports that are full of superstars, and then there's other sports that have got an issue, an image issue. So if UFC can get someone to raise the profile with a good image sells stuff. Bad boys also sell stuff as well. The bad boy image can sell stuff. But certain sports do have an issue right now with keeping fans. Oh, away goals. That's interesting. Juventus are very good at home. If Real Madrid can get an away goal there and keep that and take that lead into the Bernabeu, that will be interesting. If Juventus come back and score a couple, it's still in the balance. But the away goals rule is something that UEFA is looking at for next season, and it might be disappearing, the old away goals rule. But Real Madrid getting an away goal in the Stadio de Alpi, if they can take that, if they can win the match and take that back to the Bernabeu, they're through to the next round. So I'll be watching. I'll be keeping track on that second leg. But that's interesting. I completely forgot there was Champions League football on tonight. But there's some interesting Champions League matches coming up, and I'm again surprised they're not streaming. BT Sport are not streaming Liverpool Man City on YouTube like they did the final. I'm very surprised by that. And Sevilla Bayern 1-0. Yeah, this could be the last season of the away goals rule in European competition. That could disappear next year. There are plans to remove the away goals for next season. This could be the last season, or the year after next. This could be one of the last years we have the away goals in European football competition. But that is interesting. Those are some interesting half times. Interesting half time scores there. But let's see what else. I mean, Real Madrid, I think, are favourites to go through from that. They're not having a good season by their standards. They've had a bit of a few struggles this season. But we shall see how they do. I mean, if Juventus come back and win the game 2-1, 3-1, that finally puts it back in the balance. If Real Madrid get another goal, I think Madrid have got that tie and will go through to the next round. Sevilla, Bayern are not as good as they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're not as good as they were. They're still a good side. Let's not take anything away from that, but they're not as good as they were. But I would hope that if away goal was removed, that away. Oh no, not at all. Not at all. The away goal rule does annoy some. It's a divisive rule in sport. But I say away fans should still go to the game because the European football is a magical event. Even in the group stage, you've got to see how many fans go to group stage games. They still pack out the stadiums in the group stages. I don't think that would impede away fans from going. But UEFA's obviously weighed this up. It's something they're considering. It's something they've been considering for a while within the governing body in UEFA. They have been considering it for a while. We'll have to see if it is implemented. I don't think that would stop fans going because it's not often not every team has the chance to go to Europe. When they do get in there, their fans do travel, and some fans are fanatical in their support of their teams. Absolutely fanatical. I don't think that would impede teams from having away support. I do not think so at all. Because some of the stadiums and some of the teams you play against in European football are big names, and for some teams that are the smaller teams in Europe getting to the knockout stages and playing, their fans will go. I do think the away goal rule is maybe okay. Is it in? Because even then, even if you don't go out by away goals, you will have to go to extra time and penalties. So there's still the chance. So it still encourages attack and play. So you don't end up with a tie. What team wants to play extra time and penalties? Because that will knacker them. I still think it just means you're more likely to go to extra time and penalties, which means you're probably more likely to attack. But and it's interesting that Rangers fan channel is his old granddad, his old boy is a Roma fan. I've not, I have, it's very, but we've got just look at the fan bases that are on who've been in these live chats and these live streams. Doesn't matter what sport it is. I've had Dutch football fans, Danish football fans. We've got a lot of Scottish fans in here. We've got fans of Breda in Holland. We've had fans of FC Copenhagen today. We've had obviously Rangers in there. We've got Huddersfields. We've had a majority. We've had fans from all over the world. To me, this is just a sports discussion channel, really. I was only planning to do the one live stream today. My internet cut out. The second one, we had a troll in there just giving loads of abuse, and this one was going all right. For me, we had a Breda fan, yeah, and I'm surprised people in Holland watch me and enjoy watching my content. I've had people from all over the world. I look at my data and all the graphs and charts and tells me where people are from, and there are a lot of fans of the channel and lots of subscribers and viewers from all over the world. Sport is a great social equalizer, as I say. It brings communities and people together, and it can be divisive. It can be, but some of the debates we've had here, and some of the questions that have been asked, and some of the interest that has been shown towards other sports, and it's great. I encourage things like this. And I've had a few idiots today, and I've had to delete a video because it just got full of crap and people writing, just turning it into a forum for abuse, and it's got boring. So I just went, that's going. But no, let keep the good comments coming. I mean, yeah, we had as an NAC Breda fan from Holland, literally from Holland, and that was good, having a Dutch football fan on the channel. He's been on 2 of 3 live streams today, but that was good, having his input and his viewpoint. But I've had people from India in the live stream talk about cricket. It's been brilliant. I appreciate any input from everyone. But let's see what other questions we have, because I want to keep going for another. I'm going to keep going till 9 o'clock UK time, and then I'm going to call it a night, because I've done a lot. I've been live streaming now for near on 4 hours, all told, over 3 live streams. So I am loving all the questions. I'm loving all the input. I'm loving all the discussion we're having, and it's been great today. We've discussed a lot of things, but I'm interested to hear what other questions you have for me, and what other things you want me to talk about, because the live stream works with your input. It doesn't just go me going on and on and on. I mean, it needs your input to gain traction and be successful. But we definitely have a lot of research to do over the next couple of days. Yeah, it's been good. So any more questions? Because I want to keep going for another 20 odd minutes. Any more questions, guys? I mean, it's been great so far. I mean, it's flowed a lot, and it's good. Any more questions? Any more? Because it's been good tonight. Have I had any fans from Turkey? I haven't had many views from Turkey, really. I'm not. I'm looking at my viewership figures. I have not had many fans or viewers from Turkey. That is a very interesting question. I have no idea why you asked it, but no, I haven't actually. I've got subscribers in Italy, in Germany, in Finland, in Sweden. I've had very few viewers from Turkey. It's one I thought there'd be a bit more interest with with some of the football videos I've done, but there hasn't been. If David Warner tries to overturn his ban, then yeah, he already is the most hated person in Australia, I think. But it's very interesting what David Warner has said in his TV interviews, that he will answer all the questions in time. He's been very, very evasive on some of the questioning aimed at him. So I think there is a lot more to come out about what happened in Cape Town last week and a half ago. There's more to come out yet. I think there's a lot more to this than just three blokes involved. His press conference where he was emotional, I think there is more to come out, because he was very evasive. His answers to some of the questions were very, very evasive, and I was a bit, hang on a second, something's a bit off here. That match fixing thing just doesn't go away from me. I've watched enough documentaries on match fixing in sports. Oh, sorry, and the links to organised crime in sport, and his link to the IPL is what is key here. The link to the IPL is what is key here, because Gesundheit. I'm assuming that's bless you in German. A bit of phlegm, but no. Honestly, with David Warner, I honestly think that it does go far deeper, as you say. I thought so. I thought it meant bless you in German, but no. Back to David Warner, I do think there is something far more under the surface that's going on, something behind the scenes that's going on, because what he stated in his press statement, which was a few days after everyone else, after Bancroft and Smith and everything. And look, the Dutch fans back. Good to see. Good to see. But no, with David Warner, it does go far deeper, far deeper. Very convenient though that he's back just in time for the World Cup over here next year. Very, very convenient how his ban coincides with the World Cup in the UK next year. Very, very interesting. But in all seriousness, there is something going on here that is a bit more than just three blokes trying to get an advantage with the ball. More will yet come out, and we'll have to see what comes out. But we'll have to wait and see what comes out. Someone's going to spill the beans soon, eventually. So we'll have to see what happens with. Oh bloody hell, my nose! We have to see what happens with David Warner and going forward. Michael Vaughan gave an interview to another YouTuber on another YouTuber's channel. He gave an interview to someone, and he basically said that David Warner probably doesn't play ever again. So we'll have to see what happens. If he gets selected for the national side for the World Cup next year, that could be very, very interesting. I think Germany will do it, but France have a very good chance as well in the summer. They have a very, very good chance. They proved with a decent side, a hard-working side, you can get to a final. But the Euros 2 years ago wasn't high on quality. I'll give it that. Oh, I've got a really bad fucking cold now. But no, I do think France have a very, very good chance to win the World Cup this summer. But I think Germany are just that little bit more. They've got that little bit more about them. And Belgium as well. One of those three will be World Cup winners. That's my view on it. But we can be wrong. We'll have to see what plays out in Russia in a couple months' time. It's 2 months away, the World Cup. We have to see what happens because there's a few friendlies to play before the World Cup. So injuries, and there's still regular season football to play for. Fucking hell. In Europe, and we'll have to see how that plays out with my dark horses. Belgium. I think Germany are my favourites. I've done a video on that today. But my dark horses would be Belgium. Means I have to leave and get out of the room. I'll find something. Oh, this will do. Fuck it up. That'll do. That'll do. It's on the pillow. Yeah, it's dirty anyway. Got to be changed. Belgium are my dark horses. But France and Germany, I think, are the two real open favourites. But we have to see what happens in the next 2 months because, yeah, my live stream, my internet's not great. I do apologise. But there's been issues with YouTube all week with various things. It's a pain in the arse, my internet today. Let's bring that a bit close. But I think people's internet's playing up, or YouTube's playing up. My internet has already gone off once today, but let's keep going with the live stream. Dark horses are Belgium for me. France and Germany have, I think, a very, very good chance. But the South American teams, do not discount them. Even though South American teams haven't won or haven't done that well in European World Cups, do not discount them. Your Argentinas, Uruguays, and Brazils, all of them have a very, very good chance. And Colombia, no, people should bet Colombia as well. They all have a very, very good chance of doing something in this World Cup. And host nations normally do quite well as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians are up there. But there are other issues with this World Cup that are there. But I will be watching it. I'm not travelling to the World Cup. I know a lot of people have asked me this question. I'm not going to the World Cup. I'm staying here in the UK. That's not to say that it won't be a great tournament. The weather will have a part to play in the tournament and the travel. Whatever team can deal with the travel best and the weather conditions, because it's going to be very hot and there's a lot of chance. Well, the issue is not if you stay on the beaten track, if you stay, where you're meant to go for the games and in your hotel, and you stay in the touristy areas, you will be fine. The issue with the World Cup is the political side of it. Really, is inflaming the issues. Fans are going to go. It's up to them to behave. The issue is they're not going to behave. We know this. The Germans won't behave. The French won't behave. The English won't behave. The Swedes, all the European nations and all the South American nations have a hooligan element that doesn't know how to behave. So, and the Russian hooligans will be ready for them, and it's going to be one of them that's going to dominate. I fear what happened in France 2 years ago is going to happen again, and it's not just the English people's fault. It happened in 2012 in Poland and Ukraine. There were issues with hooligans. It's going to happen. That is the issue. I don't know about the Australians, how big your hooligan element is. But the Dutch aren't going. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dutch fans still travel to the World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if football fans will travel to the World Cup. But the Russian hooligans do have a link to the armed forces and the police. A lot of soldiers are also hooligans in their spare time. So are a lot of police officers and rights. It's an exceptionally corrupt country. Exceptionally corrupt. Really corrupt country. Racist hooligans as well. You see, over in Europe, there are some hooligan gangs are not actually racist. Ironically, they're more tribal and they support, or they're ultras of as the Europeans will call them, ultras. It's the same in the UK. Some of the hooligan gangs are based on where you're from, not the colour of your skin. But the Russian hooligans, I'd be very concerned if I was an African fan or an African player. South Americans, I'd be concerned if I was a mixed race player or Amerindian player or black African, Afro-Caribbean. The same for European teams. There's a lot of Afro-Caribbean and African-born or descended players. That's when it's going to get really nasty, is when the racism starts and the monkey chanting and the throwing of bananas and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if teams walk off the pitch, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does get violent out there. The Russian hooligans themselves, on their YouTubes, on their Facebooks, on their Twitters, have said we are ready. We they're very proud of the fact that they attacked the English and the Welsh, and fought the English and Welsh hooligans out in France, and the French hooligans. They are. I think this is the one World Cup teams are happy not to go to. Um, I will agree with that. It's not the travel that's the problem, because in Brazil it was proven the teams that dealt best with the conditions did well. And Germany really adapted really well to the conditions 4 years ago in Brazil. It is going to be the political side of it and the hooligan element of it. The Germans and the Russians don't like each other. The Poles and the Russians don't like each other. A lot of the European nations going have played Champions League games in Russia, and they have a score to settle. And these hooligans will go and they will give it a good crack. And I can see very bad things happening. That's one of the issues people have. Another issue people have is match fixing and corruption within the game. If Russia don't get out of the group, I'll be exceptionally surprised. Well, how well did you travel to the countries? I know you've had to get through, the repechage and things like that, and you've had to get through from your bit of qualifying. But I'll be very interested to know how many Australians actually went to the away games. Very, very interested. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's the odd Aussie who wants a punch up. Aussies are hard drinkers and they like a good brawl in a bar. I think I don't know about how you deal with crowd disturbances and banning fans from travelling. But over here we have banning orders, and that tends to, the hooligans have to report to the police station and surrender their passport if they're under an order. They fail to do so, their house gets raided, or they get a warrant put out for their arrest, and they're in further shit for breaching a court order. The Overall, though, the Germans and Russians really hate each other. I don't know if I'm not sure. I can't remember if Poland qualified or not. I did a video on the World Cup draw. Yes, you mentioned that last night. Alvarez, he failed as he's been completely cancelled now because of his failed drugs test. You did mention that in a previous live stream, either yesterday or the day before, that Alvarez had failed. I'm assuming he's failed his second test. Then his second samples come back positive. That doesn't surprise me, Owen. That really doesn't. His name has been mentioned a lot with doping, not just recently. We're talking for the last 4 or 5 years. His name constantly comes up with allegations of steroid abuse. Yeah, Poland. Watch out for the Poles and the Polish hooligans fighting the Russians. It won't be all English hooligans. It'll be Europe versus Russia out there. It will be a war zone, hooligan wise. But no, I'm not. Alvarez, he's obviously his second sample's come back positive, because you have to give 2 samples, an A and a B sample. If one tests positive, you have to give a second. I hope he gets banned for a very long time. Alvarez from boxing. I hope he gets banned for a very long time. But we'll see what the boxing boards, because boxing is a really painful. It's a complicated sport with the governance of it. Each nation has its own board of classification for boxing, so it'll be interesting who actually does give him a license, his boxing license. So he's over his, that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Well, the amount of people who've now said they're happy their teams are not going to the World Cup this summer is staggering. For a nation not going to World Cup is normally a disappointment, but fans don't seem to be so disappointed. They seem to be kind of like glad they're not going into what could be the the worst World Cup I think we could have. It could be, but at the same time, it could be a brilliant spectacle. But at the same time, it could be not. And I would expect the hooligan problem to really surface here and it to really get nasty. The thing is, Australian sports fans are brilliant. I love Australian sports fans. The Kangaroo Army are brilliant. I really like Australian Aussie sports fans. They are fun. If not always agreeable, they're fun. But I'm very surprised by the amount of people who have said they're happy that their nation has not qualified for this World Cup. In years past, coaches will be sacked, players will be dropped, never selected. Now it's like you haven't qualified. It's not a bad thing. I don't know what happens in 4 years' time for the Qatar World Cup. We'll have to see. But I can see this one hooligan problems being a problem with this World Cup, and football riots happening, and I can see it getting very nasty. I can see the Russian hooligans really. Well, it's called corruption in FIFA. This is what happens when you allow Sepp Blatter to be as corrupt as he was for 30 years. Infantino was born the next, literally, I don't know how corrupt this is, but Sepp Blatter is born in one village, 2 villages down in the next valley. Now, if you know how mountain ranges work valleys, so basically around the corner in the next town, Infantino, he's born in the next town. The Qatar one, you could play the games at night, it would work. But at the same time, there's all sorts of issues with the Qatar one. And I can assure you, Mr. Brader, you don't want to spend a night in a Russian police cell. Apparently, it's not a pleasant experience. And Russian police are known to be. He's the new guy in charge of FIFA, Infantino. He replaced Sepp Blatter at FIFA. He's just as bad. You've replaced one guy from Switzerland for another guy from Switzerland, from the same province of Switzerland, from pretty much the same region in that province. Giovanni Infantino is Swiss. Yeah, you don't beat the Russian police. The Russian police cell beats you. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Russian police are known to be brutal, corrupt, and they will shoot you without hesitation. They don't have rubber bullets in their guns. They have live rounds. They will happily shoot to kill. I know a couple of Russians, and Russian police are brutal. Fair play to you if you want to, get stuck in with the Slavic bastards, but nah, not for me. Not for me. I'd rather watch it on TV and point and laugh at those idiots who did go. But if you do get sentenced by a Russian court, it's very hard to get out of your sentence and appeal it, and you're thrown in jail for a very long time. And Russian hooligans are known to kill people. There's not just a punch up because they left people in comas. They carry an assortment of weapons. They'll go with Molotov cocktails. They'll go with axes, baseball bats, koshes, guns, flick knives, hammers, crowbars. They'll go with anything, much like any other hooligan gang would. But they go armed to the teeth, and they don't mind not just spilling a bit of blood, but they don't mind killing people. It happens a lot. I do hope that your Italian mate does come back from the World Cup in one piece. But Russian clubs in Europe have had to play games behind closed doors multiple times. But it's a very interesting subject. I'm very interested in how many of you have basically said you're glad your team or your country is not going to the World Cup. That is very telling on where people stand on this. But no, Qatar is a further, even bigger nightmare. It's in the middle of a desert. It's 40 degrees all year round, and there's issues with that one as well. But the corruption in FIFA, that is my answer to it. Was the corruption in FIFA. This is why we're going to Russia. This is why we're going to Qatar in 4 years' time. FIFA is corrupt, exceptionally corrupt. And Qatar at the moment is subject to international sanctions as well as Russia. So the next two World Cups, the countries have sanctions against them by the UN. Fair play to him. I do hope he enjoys it. I mean, it is what it is. I hope your friend enjoys, and I hope Portugal do quite well, and I hope he enjoys going there. But no, you wouldn't see me want to go to Russia for a football tournament. I wouldn't mind going to visit, like, Red Square and the Kremlin and things like that, and then the Winter Palace. But that's as a tourist. I wouldn't want to go there as a football supporter, because football and Russia is not a good mix. It is a very toxic mix. Their hooligans are some of the worst. Some of the worst hooligans in the world are Russian. But no, some great questions. So you come up with some great questions. I mean, I'm not surprised Alvarez has been banned. I don't know what happens to that fight then. As well, Russian games against other teams, they will. The games against other teams will explode. How did you find the Brazil World Cup? That's another question. How was the Brazil World Cup for you? That's what I'm interested in. I mean, I was out. Obviously, the Euro '96. There was a big concern about hooliganism over here in Euro '96, and I was a kid at the time, and I loved the tournament. There was stuff. There was a lot of interest at the time. So I've been in a host nation before. I've lived in a host nation of a football tournament before, and I can tell you it was a brilliant experience as a kid. There was football stuff all over the place, and every community bought into it. Of course, there were issues with hooligan elements, but it wasn't as bad as when we were played in France '98. That was bad. Euro 2000 was bad. That's good. The samba football. Brazilian. I mean, I've had a friend live in Brazil, and he speaks highly of the country and the people. And I've got a few friends from Brazil. It's a very interesting part of the world, South America, and I would love. It's exceptionally the way they play football out there. Brazilian football in Brazil is completely different to when the Brazilians come over here to Europe. They do play still like they play in the 1970s. They still think they play so it's all flair and attack, and the fans love it. It's not very defensive football. It's exceptionally exciting. How football should be. English and Dutch. Yeah, there is a lot. That's good. I'm assuming obviously you are Dutch because you're from Breda, so fair play. Right, any more questions? Because this live stream suddenly got very, very busy, and I actually was going to head offline. But any more questions, guys? Because I'll take another 10 questions or so. 5, 10 questions. Any more questions, guys? Because I've basically been live streaming since like 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'm on my third live stream. And it's mostly been good. There's been the odd idiot, and you can get that. Okay, any more questions, guys? Because there's a lot of people watching, and I want to see what they've got to say. Those who've asked the questions have been great. I'm I've got to update it, and that will probably take a good while. I might do, most likely tomorrow. I've got to organise a few bits and pieces. I might do one a day for the next couple of weeks. I might do. I did 3 today. One, I had a technical glitch. Did another one, and then I obviously did a turn up. So I've done 3 today, and that was purely by accident. Most likely one a day in the evenings around this time for the next week or so, and then every Sunday at 8 p.m. That will be the general plan in the summer. In the autumn, winter, it'll be different. But at the moment, I'm going to be doing regular ones daily for the next week or so, and then we'll work out which ones have been the most popular, which day is the most popular, and what the best time and of the day and the week to do them. Dark horse, I would say Belgium for the World Cup. I've answered that before, but you've obviously just joined in, so Belgium will be my dark horse. We have and obviously Sports Spurs. Right, that was a good batch of questions. We'll do another few questions because they were all very quick to go through. So if anyone else has got any more, another couple of questions, and then we'll call it a day. Another 5-10 minutes. You guys have been brilliant, and I know people have just come in, but no, Belgium will be my dark horses for the World Cup. But it all depends on the fitness of Vincent Kompany. If he's not fully fit, that defence, even with Vertonghen and Alderweireld, I'm not 100% certain that we shall see how they do. I just have a few concerns about Vincent Kompany. That defence looks just that little bit less. Ooh, as it's a group stage match, I think that could be a draw actually, because they all basically, the whole Belgium squad basically plays in England, apart from maybe one or two players. The English players will know a lot about Belgians, and the Belgians will know a lot about the English. So that could be a very interesting matchup. Obviously, injuries can still happen. Harry Kane's obviously out at the moment, but we shall see. But these next two are at the moment, I'll go for a draw. But as soon as the World Cup starts, we've got a few more warm-up games and the rest of the season to run out. Injuries will have an effect. If there was play now, I think Belgium have the slight edge because the team has been together for long. The team has been together for longer. So if they were to play now, Belgium would have the slight edge. Right. Do I think Blackburn will get the Premier League in the next 10 years? I hope so. We've had a very good season this season, and we have got a game in hand over Shrewsbury, so we are top of the league and Wigan drop points. So we're in a good position. We are in the driving seat in the League One. The Championship is, as we know, a very, very hard league to get out of. So we shall see. But I hope so. But I think the club needs to have a new owner. I think the Venkies have to go for that to happen. But if we keep building as we've been doing, and we sustain ourselves in the Championship for a season or two, I have no doubt that, yes, we could get back in the Premier League. Whether we go up or come down again is another thing. Do you see the money? I do not see the money in the Premier League being sustainable with the big wages and the TV money. The TV money, the latest TV deal, there's still, I think, 40, 46 or games that have not been picked up by a provider, which makes you wonder if the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5 pick up those games. I've mentioned a salary cap before. I think that is possibly a way to sustain it, because some of these clubs have actually got a lot amount of debt. There is a lot amount of debt in football, especially English football. Scottish football, you've got to see Scotland's football to see what happens when a TV deal collapses. ITV Sport collapsed. That was replaced by Setanta. That was all the stuff that Sky didn't want. Setanta's just didn't get enough people buying into it, and Setanta collapsed. And then Gretna went out of business. Rangers had problems. Dunfermline, Hearts, Hibs, you name it. The amount of clubs in Scotland that have money problems is there and is public knowledge for all to see. So I can't see the current transfer market or salaries being sustainable for the game long term unless there's a salary cap. But for some reason, football is allergic to capping wages like other leagues. Who's England's most important player? Well, the press seems to think it's Harry Kane. In the two games without him, England played all right when we were quick in attack. We drew 1-1 without Harry Kane. The goals scored were brilliant. Lingard's goal against Holland was a very, very well taken goal by an underrated player, and Jamie Vardy's goal against the Italians was down to quick play, and I don't think Harry Kane scores that type of goal like Vardy does. The press seems to think Vardy's most important player. I don't think England really has that key star player. Harry Kane, okay, he scored a lot of goals the last couple of years, but he plays in a Tottenham side that suits his strengths. You put him into England, it doesn't suit him as well. He doesn't have as much pace as Vardy or Rashford or Sterling, and that is an issue. The way England are set up to play is on pace counter-attack, and Kane is not the quickest. But I think whoever plays in goal will be important as well, because that's a big problem. We have an issue with a lot of England goalkeepers playing the teams that are looking like they're relegation candidates and not playing well at the moment. So that is an interesting one. Bolton, I miss the rivalry with Bolton. I do. I do miss the derby matches with Bolton. Same as I miss the derby matches with with Burnley. They help make sport what it is, the rivalries, and we don't really have a rivalry at the moment in League One. We don't have that rivalry at the moment with another team from Lancashire, because they're either in League Two, or Championship, or non-league at the moment, which is a problem. What area do I work in? Well, I live in the southeast. I live. That's 2-0 to Real Madrid. That's the tie gone. I think Juventus can't come back from that. They're getting knocked out this round. I live west of London. Job wise, my last job was in a legal office. But I've worked factories and warehouses mostly. But I was a paralegal for a while. I did a career change. It didn't work out. So I'm doing this at the moment, but I am hopefully going back to work soon. But I've mostly done warehouse and factory work. But I've done a bit of office work. I've done a bit of paralegal. It didn't work out, so we move on. We tried new industry, didn't work. But I don't think Butland is our best goalkeeper. I think Pope from Burnley should get consideration for a call up and a chance to play. I think Joe Hart's done as an international. I cannot see him being number one. I really cannot. I think he's overrated as well. Ben Foster, he's in a West Brom side that's just a garbage fire. Like someone's like Heaton as well. No, but Heaton got injured, I believe. Heaton's been injured a lot, and that's why Pope's come in relief. Peter Shilton. The thing is, I'm surprised they haven't used Peter Shilton's experience in the coaching side of things, because he was England's number one for over a decade. I'm very, very surprised that Peter Shilton, they haven't used his experience in coaching these young goalies and helping these young goalkeepers. I'm very, very surprised that Peter Shilton, they haven't used his expertise in the field of that position. Ray Wood. I mean, there are some very good goalkeeping coaches out there, but I think Heaton and Pope at Burnley. Heaton's done a good job. Pope's done a good job, but Heaton's been injured with a dislocated shoulder, and he hasn't healed up properly. He's still having issues with his shoulder, and that could be a career-threatening injury for him. Pickford's done all right. He had a bad start to the season, and his confidence was wobbly, but he's done all right. And Anik as well. He's a good goalie. And Darlow is another good goalkeeper. Again, there's a lot of Juventus down to 10 men. I think Juventus are out of the Champions League now. They're cooked after that. Yeah, I think Juve are going crashing out the Champions League. I think they're done. I think 2 away goals against Real Madrid is suicide, if I'm honest, and I can't see them getting back into the tie in the second leg at the Bernabeu. I really cannot see that. Right, any more questions? Any more? Because we've been going for a good while now, but is any more questions? Because I'm gonna head offline in a minute. But there's been some great support. I will be doing a live stream every night this week. I've just got to work out which day is the most popular day to do it. I'm thinking Sundays will be the permanent day going forward in the summer, but I'm open to doing it any night of the week or every night of the week. We'll see which day of the week is the most popular. But is that every question? Is that everyone done? So that's still 1-1. Okay, Bayern have got an away goal that could prove crucial back at the Allianz Arena. But we shall have to. How long do you think it will? Well, we in the space of like this month, in the last 28 days, I've especially the last 2 days, 3 days, we've exploded with subscribers the last couple of days. I don't know how long it will take. I wasn't expecting to hit 200 subscribers as quickly as I did. So we are about a quarter of the way to, well, a fifth of the way, quarter of the way. So we're about, yeah, we are well on the way now. We're about 20% of the way there already. I don't know. At the rate it's going, another couple of good live streams, we could have 300, 400. I'm hoping by the end of the summer, if not before. But we'll have to see. What happens really. I couldn't comment on that. The channel was growing very quickly in October and November last year, and then it tailed off a bit. Okay, it's exploded the last couple of days, so we shall see. I wouldn't be surprised if Roma do beat Barcelona. Knockout football really is. If you don't turn up on the day, you can really get stuffed. I wouldn't be surprised if Roma gave it a very good go. They're a very, very good side, and we'll have to see if they can take that next step. But yeah, 1,000 followers, it could happen very quickly. Liverpool, Man City. Well, Liverpool have proven that they can beat Man City in a one-off game, and that was obviously at Anfield. But Liverpool were 4-1 up, and they fell apart to 4-3. That will come down to away goals. I think Liverpool have proven they can shred Man City's defence, and putting Man City's centre backs under a high press, they struggle. Man City need Vincent Kompany to be fit for that game. That is a 50-50 for me. That is a coin toss. I could not call that now. But Liverpool have proven they can beat Man City. I think it will come down to the away goals. I think Liverpool have got to try and score as many goals as possible at Anfield, and then hope they can defend well enough that when they go back to the Etihad, or depending which games play first, which legs play first, whether they play Anfield or the Etihad first, Liverpool have got to hope that they score enough goals at home and defend well enough at home that when they do have to play at the Etihad, that gives them enough chance to get that away goal and swing it. I think away goals will be crucial. But as overall, I would slightly give it to Man City at the moment, but Liverpool have worked out that in a one-off game they can beat them. So I'll give it slightly to Man City, but the away goals will have a key part to play. I think Liverpool have to, when they're playing their leg at Anfield, just go for broke and just go for it. They proved that if you put that back four or back five under pressure at City, they don't like it. So we shall see. But I'm going to leave that there. I know it will be a good game. I think it'll be the game of the round. It'll be the tie of the round. I'm very surprised BT Sport is not going to stream that live on YouTube like they did the Champions League and Europa League finals. So, this is where I think the TV rights have gone wrong. But I've made it very clear in my view on pay-per-view sports. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for everyone who's been involved in all three live streams today. So thank you very much. And I'll have another one for you tomorrow night. And I'll be doing nightly ones for the next week or so. And I'm going to work out which is the best night to have live streams. So I'm doing this as a bit of an experiment. I want to, because we've had a lot of people, we've had lots of new people join the channel over these last few live streams, and I'm very interested to find out what is the best night for live streaming, the best day. I might do 2 a week. I might do one on a Wednesday or one on a Sunday like I did last week. But thanks to everyone and have a good evening.